everyone, my name is Carly and I'm going to be doing some slow moving yin yoga with you today or tonight, whatever time of day it is for you. If you've done a yin class with me before, you know that it's super slow moving compared to a typical upbeat vinyasa class. It is a lot of internal work rather than physical external work, although some of the postures we'll be holding for quite a while and so they can be challenging. But the biggest challenge tends to be the internal one, where our mind starts to race and we find that we stop focusing on the breath and instead we're focusing on, okay, I wonder how many minutes I have left in this pose, or what am I going to have for dinner? And that's totally normal. If you find your mind starting to wander throughout the rest of this class, just guide it back to your breath. No judgments for letting the mind wander. Just recognize your thought, let it pass, and gently guide it back. So with that said, we're going to start soon. I will not be playing any music on my end due to YouTube copyright violation issues, but I do recommend that you play some gentle, calming music on your end, especially with these yin classes, because we'll be holding poses for between 5 and 10 breaths. It's kind of nice to have some music there. It makes it a little bit more manageable for those of us that might be beginners. This class is open to yogis of all levels, and I really like to do these slower moving classes before bed, but they can also be nice for slowing your heart down if you've just experienced something stressful or you just want to calm your heart rate before the start of your day. So with that said, let's go ahead and get seated in child's pose. One more thing I should mention actually is you have the option to have a pillow with you. I'm not sure we'll really need one, but some of the postures, like I said, because we'll be holding them for so long, you can always bring a pillow in to sort of relax yourself onto to take a more restorative option so you don't get as tight while you're holding these long poses. Okay, so let's go ahead and get in child's pose. You can bring your knees as wide as the mat, so my knees are touching the sides of the mat, and walk the hands out in front of you. Palms face down, and bring the forehead to the mat. Really let your hips sink backwards. And we'll take about 6 deep inhales and exhales here. So when you inhale, see if you can get your belly to expand down and out. And on the exhale, the belly button will come in towards the back body. Breathing at your own pace here. On your next inhale, go ahead and walk your hands over to the left and sink your hips a little bit further into the right hip area. This is a good time, if you do want a little more support, to go ahead and maybe place the pillow on top of your thighs and notice how much more restorative it makes the pose. We don't need to be sinking super deep into these postures. If you'd like to, of course, go for it. 6 deep breaths here. On your next inhale, walking the hands to the center of the mat, and just pausing here for 3 breaths. And on the next inhale, walking those hands over to the right and sinking a little deeper into the left hip area. You might notice that your feet start to tingle, or maybe your fingertips. We've been in these postures for a while now. That is completely fine. Nothing's going to happen to you. And it's okay to feel a little bit of discomfort. You just don't want to feel any pain. If you're feeling a lot of or really any knee pain or hip pain, go ahead and come into a tabletop for a quick second before coming back, or just relax onto your belly or sit up, whatever you need to do. We won't be in here too much longer. Let's go for 5 more breaths on this right side of this child pose. On the next inhale, walking those hands back to center. And let's all come out of child's pose for a moment. Bringing the knees a little bit closer together, coming onto a tabletop. Maybe swing your hips over to the right and look back so you feel a left stretch on the left side body. Now swing those hips over to the left and look back towards the left hip region. Maybe doing that just a couple more times, taking any micro movements that you need to before we continue on. When you're ready, opening the knees wide and walking the hands down. This time, not bringing the forehead onto the mat. Instead, we're going to take the right hand and bring it perpendicular to our left arm so they cross, and then bring that right side of the head to the mat. 6 deep breaths here. On the next inhale, extending that right arm long, and then crossing that left arm underneath the right, really bringing it out over to the right side, and then bringing the left side of the head onto the mat. 6 deep breaths here, and of course, feel free to blink the eyes closed at any point if it feels good for you. You'll probably notice some tightening in the hamstring regions, the pelvis regions. We're really stretching out that area, and that's okay. Just bring your attention back to the breath. On the next inhale, bringing that left arm out to meet the right. And we're going to walk the hands forward until we come on to our bellies. This is Sphinx pose. Bringing the tops of the feet into the mat. The hips are pressing into the mat. The palms and the forearms pressing into the mat. Lift the shoulder blades and the chest high. Pretend like you're dragging the earth towards your rib cage, and notice how the shoulders come back and the chest opens up. Inhale here for 6 breaths. Okay, let's go ahead and come down. Extend the arms out into a T shape. Palms are facing down. We're going to bring the right side of the face to the mat, and then we're going to roll over onto the right side of, or onto the right arm. So I'll show you what I mean. Bringing my right side of my face to the mat. I'm going to use my left hand to guide my body over. You can see that I will kickstand my left foot behind me. You're welcome to do this as well. And I'm coming into a really nice stretch in the shoulder area. So you can go ahead and do that. If it feels good to you, you can even reach your arm around your back, whatever feels best for you today, because we're going to be here for 8 long, luxurious breaths. On your next inhale, unwind the bind if you are bound. Bring across that left leg, extend the left arm and roll back onto your belly. Place the tops of the feet into the mat and shift the hips back and forth. Extending that left arm to the side if it's not already there with the palm facing down. You're going to use the right hand to gently guide your body over. Kickstanding that right leg behind you if it feels good. And again, option to go ahead and wrap that arm around into a bit of a bind if it feels nice. Otherwise, you can just keep the hand right in front of your chest or your face. And of course, anytime in the next 8 breaths that your mind starts to wander, gently guide it back to the breath and just focus on the coolness that arises underneath your nose as you inhale through the nose, and notice if it gets a little warmer on the exhales. On the next inhale, unbind if you are bound. Go ahead and bring that right leg across and down. Go ahead and shift those hips from side to side, waking up the low body. And then placing the right forearm and the left forearm on the ground in front of you. Elbows are in close to the body. We find Sphinx once again. The tops of the feet are pressing into the mat. The palms and the forearms press into the mat as well. And then gently pretend to drag that earth in towards your body. Notice the shoulders once again fall back. The chest opens to the front. And inhale here for 8 rounds of breath. Blinking the eyes closed, making sure you're not falling into those shoulders. You really want to be lifting yourself up. Even though we're holding these poses and we're breathing for a long time, this is still an active pose. We're still actively pressing up and lifting up. We're activating through our core, through our chest, through our arms, through our backs. 6 more breaths here. On the next inhale, use your hands to lift your upper body. So it's Sphinx but with extended arms instead of bent arms. This is called seal pose, and it really gives that front body a nice stretch. We'll only be here for 5 rounds of breath. Again, make sure you're not slumping into your shoulders. You're actively pushing away from the floor. And blink the eyes closed for the last 4 rounds of breath if it feels good for you. When you're ready, go ahead, bend the knees, lift the hips, push it back into a child's pose. This time you can either keep the knees together or apart, it's totally up to you. And make sure you go for either a restorative version or the full version, whatever feels best for you today. 5 rounds of breath here. Your next inhale, go ahead and remove the pillow if you went for the restorative version of the posture. Walk the hands out a bit and lift the hips, coming into a high hip child's pose, bringing the forehead to the mat for the next 6 rounds of breath. You can sink back a little bit if you feel a nicer stretch, if your hips come back a little bit, but it's totally up to you. Next inhale, shift your body forward, coming into a tabletop position. Your knees will be directly under your hips, and your palms, your wrists, your wrists will be right below the shoulder blades. Again, going ahead and taking any micro movements that might feel comfortable for you here before we go into thread the needle. So I'm going to shift my hips over to the right And then guide my gaze backwards because I really like that long stretch on the left side body. And then left, go the hips as well as my gaze. I'm just going to do that a couple more times while I work out the back. If you want to go for a couple really slow cat-cows here, that's fine. We're not going to do that many. And cat-cows are usually to build some heat and to wake the body up. We're really just trying to move super slow here because this is a gentle flow. When you're ready, wherever you are, come to a neutral position. You're going to inhale, that right arm comes up to sky. When you're in this pose, you don't want your hips to be opening all the way up. See how my chest is facing you now? Instead, we want the hips to be parallel to one another so that my arm actually can't open up all the way. If you have a super flexible low back area, you might be able to open up more than me. But for now, my hips are in line with each other, and that's what I want. So inhale here. And exhale, you're going to reach that right arm through the space you've created and bring the right side of the face onto the mat. Option here to stay where you are or bring that left arm around the back. You're going to rotate the palm so that the palm is facing behind you. Glide the knuckles across the low back and bring that right hand into that right hip region. We're going to be here for 8 beautiful rounds of breath. On the next inhale, open that arm up to the sky, press the left palm into the mat, and inhale that, extend that right arm up to sky. Exhale, bring that right hand down to come in line with the left. Taking any small micro movements or adjustments that you need to here before we come on to the opposite side. So pressing down through that right palm, we're going to inhale that left arm up to sky. Again, the hips are staying in line with one another. We're not opening all the way up. And exhale, reach that left arm through the hole you've created on the right and bringing that left side of the face to the mat. Option again to inhale that right arm up overhead, rotate the wrist so that the palm is facing behind you, glide those knuckles across the low back, and eventually find that left inner thigh or outer thigh hip region. Maybe blinking the eyes closed here for the next 8 rounds of breath. Again, anytime the mind wanders, just gently guide it back. On the next inhale, blink the eyes open if they're closed. Unwind your bind if you're bound. Bring your right palm in line with your eyes and press as you inhale up that left arm to ceiling and exhale as the left hand comes in line with the right. Beautiful job there. Tuck the toes, lift the hips, push them back. and find your downward facing dog. Go ahead and walk out your feet gently. We're not going to have too many of these tonight. Notice if you feel tight as you pedal out those legs. Maybe this is the start of your day and you're extra tight, or maybe you've already done a yoga class or two today and you're feeling a lot looser. Whatever it may be, and don't judge yourself for any way you may be feeling in this moment. When you're ready, let those heels come towards the mat. Make sure that your ears are in line with your arms. Your shoulders are rounding down, rolling down back. Inhale that right leg up to sky. Exhale, bend the knee and step the right foot through. Option to stay here if you want a bit of a challenge. Otherwise, bring that left knee to the ground, untuck the toes. Walk that right foot out to the side. If you have any pain in the knees, you can go ahead and fold your mat and give your left knee a little bit more cushion. So like I said, you can either stay here with your palms on the mat, or you can see if you want to come all the way down to your forearms, or maybe do something in the middle. You can use your pillow and bring those forearms onto the pillow. Whatever you want to do, we're going to be here for 6 rounds of breath. So see if you can stay in whatever pose you choose, as long as you're not feeling pain for the next 6 rounds of breath. You can do it. Just keep your mind. This is probably the hardest pose we'll do tonight. With every exhale, see if you can sink a little bit lower into the posture, as long as it's comfortable for you. Again, we don't want to sink into the shoulders here. Push through the forearms, and you can let the head drop a little bit if it feels better for your neck. 6 more rounds of breath at your own pace. On the next inhale, pushing through your palms, removing any pillow if you want restorative, tucking the back toes, lifting up the left knee, and reaching that right foot back, walking out your dog once again. Coming into the same pose on the left side, you're going to inhale that left leg up to sky, bend the left knee, step that left leg through. Option 2, walk the left foot out to the side and stay lifted, or bring that right knee onto the mat. Again, you can fold the mat for a little bit of extra cushion, and then try to go for whatever variation you went with on the left side. If this is doing nothing for you, that's completely fine. Meet us in child's pose. Wherever you are, stick it out for the next 8 rounds of breath, because I think the last side was more like 8 rounds. The next inhale, lifting yourself if you are on your forearms, tucking the right toes, lifting that right knee, stepping that left foot back, lifting the hips, coming into downward facing dog, walking out your dog. When you're ready, we're going to inhale that right leg up to sky once again, bend the right knee, bring the right knee behind the right wrist, swing out that left ankle somewhere behind the left wrist, and then extend the left leg long behind you, untucking the toes. If you have a lot of space, or you just want a more restorative version, but if you have space underneath your right hamstring, go ahead and place the pillow right underneath you, like that. And that's the more restorative version of pigeon pose. Inhale, open the chest here. And exhale, experiment with walking the hands out in front of you, coming onto the forearms, or maybe crossing one hand over the other and bringing the forehead on top of your hands. We'll be here for 8 rounds of breath. See if you can fall a little bit deeper into this posture with every exhale. On your next inhale, rise up, pressing through the palms, tucking the back left toes under, lifting the hips, and finding downward facing dog. Walking out your dog, pedaling the feet once again. Alternate bending the left leg and then the right. And then inhale, lift that left leg to the sky. Bend the left knee, bring the left knee behind the left wrist, swing that left ankle out behind the right wrist, and walk that right leg back straight behind you. My right leg is straight, my toes are untucked, and the top of my right foot is pressed into the mat. Again, now would be the time to grab your pillow and stick it under your left hamstring if you have a bit of height there, or you just want a more restorative version of the pose. And then walking out the hands. Maybe you stay on your forearms, or maybe you cross your hands over one another and bring your forehead onto your hands. Whatever option you went for on the opposite side, try to go for it on this side as well. We're going to be here for 8 long, juicy rounds of breath. On the next inhale, we're going to push through the right palm and then the left. Tuck that right back toes underneath, lifting that right hip, the right knee, and then lifting the hips and bringing that left leg down and back behind you into downward facing dog. Go ahead and walk out your dog one more time. This is our last downward dog of the class. And then bring the knees down and go ahead and find just a 5 breath round child's pose. I'm going for wide knee. You go for whatever feels best for you tonight. On your next inhale, come back up and find your way onto your back. Extend your legs long in front of you and gently coming down so that your gaze is towards the ceiling. Activate, excuse me, activate through the legs and internally rotate the feet so that your toes face towards the ceiling. And you're pressing down into the ground using your calf muscles. Go ahead and interlace your fingers overhead. Point with your index fingers like so. So everything is interlaced except for your two pointer fingers. Inhale the arms up overhead. And go ahead and lift up just a bit and shift your upper body over to the left. So now my upper body is not in line with the rest of my body. It's actually over onto the left side of the mat. Go ahead and bring first the left leg and then the right leg over to the left as well. So your body is in sort of a C shape, and feel that nice long stretch on the right side. Let's breathe here for 8 rounds of breath. Maybe blink the eyes closed and see if you can elongate your breathing. Make it last longer. Again, focus on that belly breathing we talked about. So inhaling and expanding the belly out, and exhaling as the belly button comes in towards the back body. On your next inhale, lift the right leg and then the left leg back into center. And then go ahead and lift that upper body up and guide it back into the middle of the yoga mat as well. You can unpoint those index fingers and inhale as you push your palms up to the sky. Fingertips are still interlaced. And exhale as you bring your palms down by your side. Let's shake out those hips just a little bit, moving them side to side. And then going ahead and interlacing those fingers above your rib cage. Exhale as you push the palms up towards the sky. And inhale, bring those interlaced fingers up overhead, giving yourself a nice long stretch. Alternate pointing the left foot and then pointing the right foot, flexing the left. Pointing the left, flexing the right. And then pointing the right, flexing the left. Do this a few more times at your own pace. Notice how your hip area, your upper hip area gets a nice stretch while you alternate those pointing toes. When you're ready, feet come to a neutral position, toes facing the ceiling. Switch the rotation of your wrists so that your palms are facing you. Your fingers are still interlaced, but bring out those index fingers so you're pointing like Charlie's Angels once again, up overhead. Bring the right foot out to the side of your mat and then the left. Inhale, lift your upper body and gently guide it up to the right as well. So you're finding that C shape on the opposite side here. Again, we'll be here for 8 nice juicy rounds of breath. When you're ready, bring that left leg back to center, and then the right. Lifting the upper body up and gently guiding it back to center as well. Bringing those arms up overhead, unpointing those fingertips, reaching those palms up towards the sky once again, and then uninterlacing the fingers, bringing those hands down by the side, shaking out the hips just a little bit. Bringing the soles of the feet to the ground. Make sure that your pillow is near if you want to go for a more restorative version of what's coming. If that's the case, bring your pillow onto the left hip area, on the outside of the left hip area. Extend the left leg long. Inhale as you guide the knee in towards the body. You can use your left palm to guide the knee across the body. Extend that right hand out into a half T and pull that knee onto either the pillow or towards the floor if you're not going restorative here. With this pose, you want to make sure that your shoulder blades are still on the ground. You find that your right shoulder blade is coming up off the ground. Walk it back towards you and make sure you untwist a little bit. It's okay if your knee doesn't come all the way to the pillow or the ground. Maybe bring your gaze over your right fingertips for the next 8 rounds of breath. On the next inhale, blink the eyes open if they're closed. Guide your gaze back towards the ceiling. Unattach from your right knee. Swing it back up towards the center of your mat. And extend your right leg long to meet your left. Bringing both soles of the feet to the ground, bending the knees. You're going to bring bring the pillow over to the right outside of the right hip. Go ahead and actually lift the hips and hop them over to the left about 1 inch. Extend that right leg long. Inhale the left knee towards your body. Grab hold of it with the right hand and gently guide that right knee across your body. Maybe it finds the pillow, maybe it doesn't. Either way, it's fine. You just, again, want to make sure both shoulder blades are still on the mat. Extend that left arm out to a half T out to the side, palm facing down if it feels good for you, and bring your gaze over those left fingertips as well. See how luxurious this feels on the neck. Notice how the ribs are feeling as you twist. The low back is getting a nice stretch. We very rarely stretch the low back, and it's so good for us. Breathing here for about 7 more rounds of breath at your own pace.
blinking the eyes open if they're closed. I always love this twist too if you have any tightness in your glutes or your hamstrings. Coming into these postures for more breaths than we're used to really allows the fascia, the connective tissue around the muscles and joints, to be able to stretch as well. Whereas if we're only holding postures for a couple of breaths, we really only stretch the muscle, but the fascia is what really keeps us tight too, and it's so good to stretch it with elongated poses. So bringing that left foot back to the mat, bending the right knee, shifting those hips back to center, moving away any props, and then let's windshield wiper the knees from side to side. We have time for about one more pose. I'm going to go ahead and take Happy Baby. You go for whatever feels best for you tonight. So if you're coming into Happy Baby with me, bring your knees into your chest and then bring them out to the side, so a little bit wider than your chest. Bring those feet up to the ceiling, so your legs are in sort of almost a 90-degree angle here. Reach forward, maybe you grab hold of your ankles, maybe you go for the outsides of your feet, or maybe you go for behind the knees. Whatever you choose to do is totally fine. You just want to pull those legs back in towards the body a little bit. Maybe the knees come onto the outsides of the elbows. Whatever you do, you want to just make sure that your low body is not your sacrum, like the space above your sit bones and below your low back. Your sacrum is your very low back. You want to make sure it's not lifting up the ground like this. You want to push it into the ground. Maybe gently rock side to side, giving your low back a nice massage. And maybe holding it for another 4 breaths or so if it feels good for you tonight. Whenever you're ready, slowly bringing those knees together, letting go of the feet and holding on to the knees, hugging those knees into your chest. You're going to inhale, the forehead comes into the knees, and give yourself a nice big hug and gratitude for practicing yoga today. Relaxing everything back down onto the ground. If you still have your pillow, maybe placing it under your knees. Takes a little bit of pressure off the back. Letting the knees splay open side to side. Maybe the feet fall apart from each other. Allow the palms to face the ceiling. Inhaling through the nose, deeply. And sighing it out through the mouth. Maybe one more time. Let's inhale slowly and deeply through the nose, sucking in as much air as you possibly can. And then sighing it out through the mouth. Blinking the eyes closed if they're open. Letting go of control of your breathing. Relaxing all the muscles in your feet and your toes. You're holding on to tension into your ankles. Just let it go. Let your feet fall apart. Let your legs fall apart. If your hip area, your abdomen is tense, let it go. Releasing any tension in your belly, your ribs, or chest. Notice if you're holding on to anything in your shoulders, just let them fall away from you into the mat behind you. Notice if you're holding any tension in the face, let it go. Maybe let your lips part. When you do that, maybe the low jaw falls back towards the neck. Maybe the tongue falls away from the roof of the mouth. Relaxing that space in between the eyebrows. We hold so much tension there without realizing. Softening the eyes and the forehead. Seeing how still we can become in this final resting pose of the class, Shavasana. I recommend staying in this comfortable posture for the next 10 minutes or so. You really don't want to move quickly out of a yoga class like this. Thank you so much for practicing with me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Namaste.